You don't condemn all violence. You don't even condemn all political violence. And I'm not talking about like America or imperialism or capitalism. All those things have led to violence. But no, I'm talking about you as an individual. If you went back in time and committed violence against the tiny mustache man that stopped the Holocaust from happening, I wouldn't condemn that, and I don't think most people would. That violence leads to less violence overall. It's the tolerance paradox, but instead for violence. Right? If you preach tolerance and you start becoming tolerant of intolerance, that leads to a less tolerant society overall. And in the same way, if you're like, no, never, I condemn all violence, and you don't commit violence towards someone who goes on to kill, for example, 6 million Jewish people, your violence could have contributed to a society where there was less violence overall. And so when I look at Charlie Kirk, this is a man who caused harm to marginalized groups of people, to people already experiencing harm in society. He made that harm worse. As bad as it was to see him get shot in the neck, like without even wanting to, in my case, like I opened up social media and there it was. Now imagine that to kids sitting in schools when Charlie Kirk said, some kids got to die for the Second Amendment, right? Now imagine that to children in Gaza, right? Who had that happen, if not 10 times worse, in front of their families. And he from the beginning said, well, some Palestinians got to die so we can get this bad Hamas group. How many trans people have harmed themselves because of his lies? Not only was he a bigot, but he didn't base it in any reality. Is his death going to lead to less violence or harm overall? I think in the context and the circumstances, no, I don't. Donald Trump and other elected officials who are conservative have showed us that they're basically foaming at the mouth to start a civil war with people to the left of them, to kill people for having political opinions to the left of them. And the reason they'll use is, well, they just killed him because of his political beliefs. And it's like, his political beliefs led to death, led to harm. These political beliefs are white supremacy. And it's okay to rip families apart and forego people's constitutional right to due process because they're just criminals, because they're bad people. Yeah, I do have a problem with killing someone for their political beliefs. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that we've allowed people's rights and people's lives to become political beliefs. Whether you think people deserve to survive or have the same rights as cis, straight, white Christian men in this country. I'm tired of legitimizing bigotry and calling it a political belief. It's just my political belief that trans people are sick in the head and they're corrupting our children, or that black people aren't experiencing systemic racism, even though both of those things have loads of evidence and data. Hitler had political beliefs. His political beliefs were that Jewish people were controlling everything and that he needed to exterminate them. And then he did that. That's a political belief. That's called fascism, in case you were wondering. And that's what Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump practice. Does that mean that if you committed violence against him, that it would just be violence for his political beliefs? Or were you committing violence to stop further violence from happening? Right? I'm tired of pretending like we need to respect everyone's political beliefs when some people's political beliefs cause harm and cause death. I only condemn this violence in this circumstance, in this political culture. I think it's going to lead to more violence, and I want less violence overall. I don't condemn it because, oh, a man got shot in front of his family. So did everyone else who died because of Charlie Kirk's words. And he didn't even pretend to care about them. Palestinian kids, American kids in schools, everyone has families. So did George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, who he effectively spent years spitting on their grave and painting them as drug-addicted criminals who deserved it because they didn't comply with the police officers, and then advocated for the police officers to be pardoned. I don't mourn the death of a white supremacist who has actively advanced fascism in this country. But this violence, this incident, is only going to feed the far right to commit violence against leftists. Because they say, you attacked us for our political beliefs, we're going to attack you for yours. I don't wish that this happened. I don't want this to happen. And I don't really think that this kind of political violence accomplishes anything. I want less gun violence overall. I want less violence overall. But to immediately say that I condemn all political violence, I don't think that's true. I don't know. I guess part of the reason I'm making this video is because when I see people antagonizing people, celebrating this, you have to remember the harm this person has caused. I'm a cis straight white man. I've never had this man's words harm me, but I have seen the harm it has caused to the people around me. If you're a trans person and you see a transphobe with a massive platform get what you might consider justice. If you're a black person and you see a white supremacist get what you might consider justice, I don't blame those people for feeling some kind of relief. So maybe if this person never had a platform to start with, these groups of people wouldn't have experienced as much harm overall.